self-care versus self-neglect. Now, think of self-care as fuel for the body. That's good sleep. That's good food. That's what you're even bringing into your body through what you read, what you consume. That's so important. The problem with self-neglect is when you don't do all these things. And here's the big problem. It's sort of like paying interest on a credit card. You don't really notice it. You're like, oh, don't worry, I'll put it on my credit card. And then you're paying interest. And then, one day you're like, why am I paying all this interest? And you look up and you see how much you paid on a yearly basis. And you're like, what? I could have bought something. I could have gone on vacation for that. Why'd I do that? See, but you don't see it in the moment. That's self-neglect. Welcome back to Getting Divorced Without Losing Your Mind. I'm Corey Shapiro. The goal of this podcast is to help you pause in that moment between when you're activated, when you got that stress response, and you want to act out. Oh, doesn't it feel good just to act out in that moment? Well, that's why I'm here every week to slow you down. Because sometimes when you act out, things don't go the way it's supposed to go. Things blow up, and it can hurt your divorce. It can hurt your children's lives. You got to be careful. So slow it down, pause, and that's what we're here. That's why I'm here, helping you do that. And the point of this episode is I really want to just remind you on something so valuable. This is so valuable about self-care and how self-care is not a luxury. It is not a luxury. This is the second to last episode of the season. You've been doing the hard work, but it kind of reminds me, when I work out, and they always say, oh, you got to stretch at the end of working out. And I don't like stretching, because I did the workout and I'm like, I'm ready to go. Why can't you just do the stretching in the class? If you really wanted me to do it, the class is, 45 minutes. And then they say, well, we'll do 2 minutes of stretching. And at the end of the class, they say, hey, you really should do more stretching. Who does that? Not many people. I don't see many people just leave. And so this episode is to really hammer this home. And I'm going to do what I learned, how to finally figure it out stretching. I took this wonderful class in Peloton, and they gave that same thing, stretching. But the best instructor I found is Adrian Williams. And he finally spoke to me. He says, it was like he was talking to me. He didn't say Corey, but I felt like he did say Corey. He's like, 10 minutes of stretching after this class. And I was like, oh my God, no one said 10 minutes of stretching. Most people just say stretch. He said 10 minutes. I was like, I can do that. I'll just do 10 minutes. And then a video popped up. It was a 10-minute video. I took it, and that's what I do. After end of every workout, I factored in 10 minutes. So it's not really a 45-minute workout. It's a 55-minute workout. Are you with me? So let's get here with about self-care. Now, I want to talk about some concepts, first of all. I want to talk about self-care versus self-neglect. Now, think of self-care as fuel for the body. That's good sleep. That's good food. That's what you're even bringing into your body through what you read, what you consume. That's so important. Thankfully, I'm not addicted to social media. I am addicted a little bit to email. I figured that one out during work. That took a lot of time. But there's so much out there that you're consuming that's not healthy. Got to be careful. Newspapers. When I was in law school, my dad used to read newspapers all the time, so I started a day reading newspapers. And I would get activated because I would see something that bothered me. But then I would go to a class which was so boring. And how do I focus? So I was like, what? I'm not reading newspapers. And I don't read newspapers. I might have a summary once a week. I'm not following current events. If it's so important, it comes to me. That's self-care. I move. I exercise. Proper sleep, proper nutrition, all of that. So important, especially when you're working overtime. And working overtime is what happens in a divorce. I tell people sometimes in a high conflict divorce, it's like you have 2 full-time jobs. You got your job, and if you have children, it's 3 full-time jobs. You got to take care of your kids, you got to take care of work, and, you got to take care of your divorce. So you need fuel. Makes sense if you had a car, you give it fuel, or you charge it up. If you're lucky enough to have an electric car. I'm in Manhattan. We have an old school car, and we still use gas. But our next car, I promise, it's going to be electric. But if we drive like even 4,000 miles a year, I would say that's a lot. That's a lot. So we still have an old car. So Last thing is, the problem with self-neglect is when you don't do all these things. And here's the big problem. It's sort of like paying interest on a credit card. You don't really notice it. You're like, oh, don't worry, I put it on my credit card. And then you're paying interest. And then, one day you're like, why am I paying all this interest? And you look up and you see how much you paid on a yearly basis. And you're like, what? I could have bought something. I could have gone on vacation for that. Why did I do that? See, but you don't see it in the moment. That's self-neglect. So the last big concept is the difference between fuel, which I'm focusing you on, and burnout. Have you ever run out of gas driving or even gotten those low, warning, and it's like you hear some noises maybe even in your car? Have you ever done that? That's what I'm talking about. You're going to burn out and you can't come back. You can't come back from it. So let me give you some examples of what I see. When I bring up self-care, and I do this generally in a consultation, if not before, because people now search me out in my day job of an attorney here in New York, and I tell them basically what I'm telling you. You got to focus on self-care. The more you work, the more stress. I don't care what it is. And I tell them the story of this wonderful client who she did dancing, and she would go weekly to dancing. That was her happy place. And she really was able to manage her divorce so well. Because I would email her, she was stressed, she would go dancing, she would think about things, she would pause. Basically what she was doing was pausing, going dancing, not ruminating, not being upset, but feeling better. And then she would come back with her architect side. I didn't use this languaging with her, but that's basically a wiser side. And we can really talk at a higher level, at a higher tactical level, because she wasn't so emotional anymore. She took that was allowed, the outlet really dissipated the emotion, like a cloud that passed. So if you say, I don't have time, and you don't, you're going to have to make time. And once you realize that you are time. So what do I mean by that? You might have to get up a half an hour early. You're going to say, I can't do it. I need to sleep. You might have to go to bed a little earlier. You might have to get up a little earlier. And there's going to be an adjustment period. And when I say self-care, I don't necessarily want you to go from 0 to working out an hour a day, 7 days a week. That's crazy. That's not what I'm talking about. But I want you to start thinking about this. You can't neglect it. And I'm going to give you some really specific ideas to think about what to do depending on where you are. So my power phrase is, you don't need to earn rest. You need it to think clearly. You don't earn it. You need it. See, there's nothing to earn. It's not like a bonus. It's what you need to act at an optimal level. Let me give you some action steps to really bring this home, just like Adrian Williams did to me when he finally got through to me about stretching after working out. When he said 10 minutes, that's what you got to do. So here's my action steps. Level 1, if you're just starting and you're thinking, Corey, I don't have time. This is all I want you to do. After dinner, after a meal, could be lunch even, I want you to go for a walk. I don't care if it's just around the block to start. Take 10 minutes, take 15 minutes. I don't care if it's cold out. Walk around the block. Just don't go from a meal to the couch, or probably maybe even eating on the couch. You're not even moving. I want you to get out and walk. I have a dog, so it's easy. I build all these things in. I'm walking all the time. I walk to work. I walk my dog. I'm walking all the time. That's step 1. Step 2 on self-care is really focusing on sleep. Could you think about going to sleep the same time or almost the same time each night? Can you do that? Now you might say, well, that sounds crazy. I'm not going to do that. But you go to work the same time each day. You generally eat the same time, breakfast, lunch, and generally dinner. Your body gets into routines, get into systems, less things to think about. So can you do phase 2, just going to bed each time? So now that's phase 2. Now let me give you a phase 3. When you first get up in the morning, can you do some meditation? Just sitting there quiet. There's some great guided meditation apps for this. And can you start small? I'm always about starting small. Can you start with, let's say, 5 minutes? Just sitting there, get up, go to your couch. You don't have to, do some crazy pose. You can sit in your couch, be comfortable, sit in a chair. You're not turning on the TV. You're not looking at your phone. You're just going and you're settling and you're closing your eyes. And then thoughts are going to come and thoughts are going to go, but you're not attaching. And then can you develop that into a 10 or maybe even to a 15-minute daily practice? Just those three things: a little movement, thinking about regulating sleep, and thinking about meditating, just giving your mind a rest and building that space you need. It's going to make some big changes in your life if you do that. And then you're going to realize that self-care is not a luxury and you don't have to earn it. And I was very specific to help you through this. And you are going to get better at doing this each day. And then you're going to really realize you're going to put it on your calendar at a point where you're going to have movement or self-care. And you're going to do more and more. Because divorce is hard. And you're going to need that extra energy. Just like if you're going on a trip, the big trip we do is we go to Vermont. We fill up the car. We know what we need to do. We also get the car, because we have an older car, we also get it checked out before we go. Make sure everything's good. And that's what I want you to do for yourself moving forward. All right, you got this. I know you do. I believe in you. Even if you don't believe in yourself, I believe in you. And I'm honored you are on this journey with me this season, watching these episodes, growing just a little bit each day, just a little stronger each day. And after a while, look where you are. Look where you are. Big difference, big changes. So congratulations. Keep it up. Do that self-care. It's going to be great for you. I'm Corey Shapiro. Thanks for listening.
This podcast offers general information only. It cannot replace legal advice. If you need tailored advice, contact an attorney licensed to practice in your area.